Welcome to Board Game Animal. My name is Justin. Originally I was going to do the top 10 of the year like I usually do, but this year the title kind of wrote itself, the top 25 of 2025. But there were a couple other reasons as well. In the springtime I felt like this was going to be a weird year. Nothing was really standing out to me yet. Things hadn't picked up like they had in previous years by that point, and I was like, oh, you know what, maybe it's just going to be a light year. Okay. So after a little while, suddenly I had a few games that I thought were going to be shoo-ins for the top 10, high in the top 10. And here's the thing. Some of those have not stayed in the top 25. The year just took off. We played a lot of new games in 2025, more than we ever have in a calendar year. I can tell you organizing this list was an absolute beast, because even down into the 40s and 50s, I'm looking at games saying, these are still hitting the table. I'm still having a blast with these. I'm still recommending these to folks. This was crazy to try to organize into a top 25. Now, most of the games that you're about to see in the top 25 here, honestly, could be top 10 material in any other year. It's just the way it fell this year that so many games have just had that little special something, but back to that in a second. And some of these are hard next to each other, like the first 15 or so here definitely could fluctuate a little bit. And even in the top 10, it was agonizing to say, is this one really that much better than the other? I did the best I could. These lists are very personal, right? When you make them. And to that point, there is something strange that a lot of the games on this year's list have in common. Something I really didn't stop and think about until the past couple months. And it's not a mechanism, it's not a theme, it's something beyond that. And as we go through, I'll note which of these games have that something. Not all of them have specifically what I'm referring to, but I'll note it. And what I mean by the something, I'll wait and explain when we get to number 1. I'd like to point out that these bad boys are in my honorable mentions for a couple reasons. A couple because they just missed the top 25, but a few here were definitely because of a time factor. I just didn't get these to the table as much as some others, and all of them do have a little bit of that spark. There's definitely a lot of staying power with these games, and I can't wait to explore them more. I think they're a lot of fun, and I'm sure going to be talking about them down the road. I will note that there is some niche stuff here on the list that may not be readily available, and I do apologize for that. But for as many as I possibly can, there will be a link down in the description below for you to check out. Enough talking about it, let's get to the list. I played a lot of card games this year, and we've made tons of videos about small card games. So trick-taking, ladder climbing, card shedding, those are some common themes you're going to be seeing here on this list, because there really were a lot of standout examples in those genres this year, to the point where they are almost monopolizing this list. We're starting things off here with Lepidoptery. Lepidoptery is a really unique climber shedder that it's not just about getting those cards out of your hand, but it's about playing specific combinations in order to manipulate another board that is essentially a game of Connect 4. It's just a really interesting marriage of ideas between playing cards, but also trying to line things up in a traditional abstract fashion. At the end of the day, it's two things that people are familiar with, playing cards to get rid of them and doing a Connect 4 element, but in Lepidoptery, it really is more than the sum of its parts, and I think if you like any of that, it's one you should check out. Chasing Shadows is the first trick taker on the list. This was from the Indie Games Night Market and one of the standouts for me. This is just such an interesting one where all of the cards that you're playing are going to matter into the next trick. And there's just a lot of really cool moving gears and moving parts in this one. I think it's going to be a trick taker that's going to be some folks' white whale for now because of its limited release. But I hope the buzz continues, and I have faith that we'll be seeing this one again soon. This one is super ingenious and slick. I think the exact kind of mix-up a lot of trick-taking heads are looking for these days. And the trick-taking continues. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Origin Story, the first trick-taking game from Stonemaier Games. This one is just a bunch of fun. It's like trick-taking in the kitchen sink. I've talked about games like Rebel Princess that I enjoyed, which add interesting asymmetric abilities or different conditions into the trick-taking space. This does a similar concept, but dials it up to 11. You're playing as a superhero who continually unlocks more aspects of their abilities and what they're able to do. And it really feels like this ramping up party-style trick-taking, which I think is just a lot of fun. There's a lot of crazy interactions and a lot of game-breaking powers and elements that are added into the game. A ton of fun that just constantly begs you to revisit it because there is so much variety in the powers, in the different things that are available in the game. A lot of fun. And next we have Battle of Hoth. Battle of Hoth, I think, is just a phenomenal two-player experience. I don't have too much history with the series that Battle of Hoth is based on, which leads me to say that I think this is a great entry point for people who don't have much experience with it and just love Star Wars. I love the fact that I can say that there is a game based on my favorite sequence in all of Star Wars, and I think this really captures it well. There's such a variety in scenarios. It's fun to play both sides. Overall, a really great package, and I think if you're a Star Wars fan, or if you know someone who's a Star Wars fan, especially of Empire Strikes Back or this sequence, this is an amazing experience at the table. Dino Trix is the first of almost a few cheats that I have on this list because it's one game, but there's 3 games in it. Depending on the player count or quite the type of game that you're looking for, this takes a traditional tarot deck of cards and has a few different types of trick-taking games that you're able to play with that singular deck. This is one of those games that really got me leaning and interested more in some traditional card games this year, and I think is the perfect game if you want to see what a different type of deck is like, aside from a popular traditional deck of 52 cards, and a few games to choose from, all in one package. Each one has interesting scoring elements, and again, fits with different player counts, so you are getting some bang for your buck with Dino Trix. Dickory is another climbing shedding game. And what I love about this one is it is super quick to play, but has a really interesting, unusual element of the rank of the numbers constantly changing. And you're going to be using the box with the clock to indicate the current number hierarchy. And it can change depending on how you play out the cards. And if you like quick little 2-player card games that have an interesting hook to them, and also the game does come with some variants, Dickory is a modern standout example of a card shedding game and one that carries a lot of whimsy with it. I've talked about Core of Discovery now a couple times on the channel, and the way I describe it is it's unlike any other game that I have in my collection. It's a game about logic and deduction and exploration, but also resource management and survival, and there's like a little bit of combat in there, and there's puzzly stuff in there. It's based on the Manifest Destiny comics, where you are helping Lewis and Clark navigate a kind of weird alt history. And it is really interesting. It can be brain-burny. I like it as a solo puzzle, and personally, it's my favorite of the off-the-page games yet. If you haven't had a chance to try this one, and you like the idea of using deduction to try to locate where things are and explore, I think this game does it tremendously. Big Wave is another trick taker, but one that turns things around a little bit. I think in general, people are used to must-follow trick-taking. Big Wave is a must-not-follow trick-taker, and it's one that has a nice positive feedback loop because everybody always feels like they're getting something. Because if you don't win the trick, everybody is able to use special abilities that allow you to manipulate the game space a little bit, what cards you have, who's leading, getting a victory point, things of that nature. It's one that I think is pretty crunchy and has a lot of depth to it, without having super overhead that it's going to be scaring people who are just learning it for the first time. If you want to play a trick-taking game that really changes things up and feels quite different from what you may be used to, Big Wave is one I would highly recommend. Surprise, surprise, more trick-taking. Piñatas is the definitive version of Knizia's Marshmallow Test, Voodoo Prince, different trick-takers that have been released over the years. And I say definitive version because really it just irons out all of the wrinkles and just makes a perfect little product. It's the delayed gratification mechanism of wanting to do well, but don't do well too fast. There's also interesting card interplays between different specific numbers, and Piñatas just takes the whole idea and puts it in one nice, clean little package. Again, a good one for the trick-taking heads out there, but at the same time, between the theme and between the ease of the rules, it's one that anybody could pick up. It's a trick-taking game that for a while in the other versions has just been right outside the list of my favorites, and I think with this new version that all plays knocked out of the park, it finally has the form it deserves. I described High Tide as a game that everyone should own, and I stand by that. It is just the perfect, delectable little two-player abstract strategy game in the perfect form factor. There is nothing unnecessary here. It is the kind of game that you could leave out like a coffee table game, but it also just looks nice in its little box on the shelf. It is one that if you tend to play a lot of two-player games and you like to just have something that's there and quick and easy while still being really ingenious, this is the one for you. I would suggest watching our coverage on it to see a little bit more detail, but High Tide continues to be a standout for us this year. Talk about underrated. I'm very surprised I haven't heard much talk about Ape Town, which is one of Knizia's newest tile layers. It didn't come with much hype this year when it was localized, but dang, I think it's fantastic and really stands out in his tile layers. The theme is silly, but it helps inform the teach. The layout of the tiles around the board and the closed economy makes every decision from every player always interesting and impactful. If you're not familiar with Knizia's tile laying games and you just want to try one casually, I think this is a great one to do it. It plays well at a lot of player counts, and thematically, I think it's a lot of fun. So I say check out Ape Town. Zenith is really, really cool. It is a lane battler that I've already talked about on the channel that is just so simplistic that you are running 5 lanes, that you are trying to pull planets towards you. There's multiple win conditions. There is just a sea of iconography that you're drowning in, but it doesn't matter because everything becomes pretty intuitive pretty quickly. It is crunchy, it is involved, there are so many options and so many moving parts, but it never actually feels overwhelming. Not to mention just a great look, great color scheme, and all of the original artwork is tremendous. I still think maybe I have to do a voices video for this one. If you haven't played Zenith, but you like lane battlers and tug-of-war style games, check it out. And here is where making this list got painful. I really thought Hot Streak was going to be one of the very top of the year. We've had so much fun with Hot Streak. Every single play of this is hysterical. Like I've said before on the channel, if you told me unironically that we would have a game where you are going to be screaming at a hot dog to stand up, turn around, face the right direction, and just move it, I wouldn't believe you. I don't care if there's a high chance rate. I don't care if we're mostly watching the game happen. Hot Streak is just the epitome of fun around the table that has just hit with every single person I've played it with. And if you haven't played it yet, it is one of the best betting racing games out there. You have to check it out. Another painful one for me, especially since it's just missing out on the top 10, is Iliad. Iliad is the modern realization of a few Knizia games, old two-player tile laying games that I really enjoyed that I felt like they were just missing the mark. And Iliad, it just comes through with the perfect execution. I played it so much this year. It is a fantastic two-player, very mathy game, but so replayable because of the different randomized setup and a great way to just sit down and relax and spend a little time. The ingenuity of the different powers of the different numbers keep the game fresh and unique every time you come back to it. I think if you like abstract strategy, mathy, two-player games, Iliad is one you have to check out. Keeping the Knizia coming just for another minute, and with Bitewing, of course. I've said Bitewing's got to stop coming out with so many good Knizia games. It's just ridiculous at this point. But Gazebo is just a fantastic re-implementation of Chin. 2 to 4 players, domino-style game where you are lining up colors simply in a race to get out your gazebos. Gazebo just has that something special. What I have described it as multiple times is like you went into your grandmother's attic and you found this relic, a game that you didn't know existed, and you pull it out and say, this is fantastic. How did I not know about this game? And Gazebo manages to balance that perfect, classic old world game feel with beautiful modern sensibilities because of the production, and to me now is definitely one of Knizia's best games ever. Top 10 time. Yonkai no Yokai is another tremendous climbing shedding game. But what makes this game stand out so magnificently is the elevator mechanism, where you will always see exactly which melds you are legally allowed to play. And if you can't, you have a button that allows you to turn the elevator in the other direction and play a meld below it. This very well may be my favorite player's aid of all time, because technically that's what the elevator is. I've never had a climbing shedding game that tells you not just the kind of melds or cards that you can play at any given point, but the literal specific combinations. The way it functions is magnificent, and the play itself never gets boring. Even though you see exactly what your options are, you might say maybe that's restrictive. It's really not. The flow of the game is fantastic, and if you want one of the best climbing shedding games out in recent years, the Yonkai no Yokai is the one to check out. Heavenly Bodies was my favorite game from the indie games night market. From the first play, I knew it was going to end up on this list. I didn't know where, because I've played this game so much. It is just a beautiful example of taking a concept, something like Rummy, and turning it on its head. It is an awesome two-player experience. I would recommend you watch our Indie Games Night Market coverage to get more details on it, but it is wonderful, and I really do hope that this finds a home and you all can be able to play this at some point soon. It, again, is one of those games that has the something that we're going to be talking about, but it is just a fascinating game to play with really, really tense decision-making, and again, stands out as just yet another wonderful two-player game on this list. So keep your eye out for Heavenly Bodies. I'll shamelessly say, hopefully it'll be coming back around in our orbit soon. When we first talked about Iliad and Ichor, I really wasn't sure which one I preferred, and I still have moments of not being sure. But Ichor has to take the cake ultimately. It is such a simple, ingenious concept of moving a piece along, leaving a trail behind. That's it. And whoever gets all of their pieces in their trail out first onto the board, they win. Simple, right? Well, not if every single piece in the game has a different, unique ability. If you want someone who can leave the board and then come back in on the other side, you have that. If you want somebody who can take out someone else's piece, you have that. If you want somebody who can make an L shape, there's that. There is just so much variety and replayability, not to mention with the expansions, not to mention with the different setups, and not to mention the fact that you are technically supposed to switch sides and play as both factions. Ichor is just a wonderful experience, and if you like your classic games that feel traditional to have that modern spice with asymmetric abilities and things of that nature, Ichor is one of the peak examples of a game that you should be checking out. We have two in a row here that have a lot in common from my perspective. Both have that something, by the way. The first here being Fright Factor. Number 7 and 6 here both have become for me two of the definitive trick-taking games that I will introduce to folks who want to see something a little spicy, a little different, but not something so wildly niche or something so light and predictable, but something right in that middle sweet spot. Fright Factor from Nick Ferris looks fantastic with Alicia Giroux's artwork. It is a fun theme where monsters become less scary as you're playing them out, which is strangely thematic because the more familiar you are with the monster, the less scary it is. Some monsters will always be scariest, and those cards are more powerful and you can play them more. It is just a brilliant little trick taker that looks fantastic, has a lot of replayability, and is always fun to see each hand, the hierarchy of the suits changing. Just a wonderful time. I could not recommend this one more. Similarly, 3 Tricky Pigs is the other trick taker that I will always be pulling out to teach folks now. It's another one that feels strangely thematic. If you're familiar with the story of the 3 little pigs and the big bad wolf, the suit hierarchy in this game will make perfect sense to you, why some are stronger than others, and all of the little intricacies of the suit ranking, the number rankings within each suit. There are a lot of nods to the classic story, but it's all lending to an actually very interesting game mechanically. There is a bidding system that's not too punishing. You have options what you could pursue. You have huff and puff cards that can make your card stronger, that sometimes can come in so clutch it's beautiful. And all in all, something about the theme makes the gameplay itself kind of a fun, lighthearted romp. It's got those moving parts to keep those trick-taking sickos interested, but at the same time, something between the theme and just the organic nature of the gameplay makes it one that I can teach anyone, and I've just been having a blast with it. So yeah, Fright Factor and 3 Tricky Pigs are topping my all-time trick-taker list, period. That's not to say we won't see some more trick takers here, so hold on. Pacts is, for the last time making a pack joke, the perfect package. Pacts manages to put in a massive area control game, an I Split You Choose game, a hand management game, in one small little box that has so much going for it. Asymmetric player powers, a little twists on scoring that you can introduce, and just being one of the best streamlined examples of the I Split You Choose mechanism that I have seen. I just absolutely adore it. And I think that this was the standout game from Pacts. This is going to be a cult hit when more people get a chance to play it. This delivers a gaming experience that I normally would need in a giant Blood Rage size box in a smallest package that has so much going for it. It is not intimidating to learn or to teach. Once you know it, you know the game. And I think is just a remarkable game from DVC. They've just knocked this out of the park. And I think if you like area control, if you like games that have replayability due to some asymmetric abilities in the form of different characters or factions, if you will, that you can play as, and if you just have been dying for that perfect I Split You Choose game, Pacts is for you. Now, I mentioned that there may be a little bit more trick-taking, but this is a little different. Zoo and More is a collection of games from Taylor Reiner and Friends. There's more than 4 games in this box, but what's in the box is actually multiple traditional decks of cards. Now, they have really unique, delightful artwork on them, and extra cards in there to help aid some of the games. Ultimately, you could use them as traditional decks of cards, which I think is just really neat. In the box, you have multiple games. There's a compendium trick-taking game, and compendium games is something that you will be hearing more from me on this channel in the future. You have partnership games, you have actual timed speed card shedding games, you have some collections of old-fashioned games, and you have Taylor's classic short Zoot Suit as part of the collection. And there's even a way to combine all 4 decks of cards into one mega epic game. Basically, for me, Zoo and More feels like a playground. This shows the amazing modern things you can do with a traditional deck of cards. Things that will blow your mind. Things that a lot of popular published games these days aren't doing. And a lot of them, especially my favorite in the box, Chai Tea Jazz, which is the aforementioned compendium game. In and of that game alone, there are so many different variants, different player counts, different plug-and-play options that you can put in there. It keeps the game so interesting. I know I'm never going to be able to play every combination I would like to. So if you're someone who really likes trick-taking, card shedding, things of that nature, this is going to be like the first time a kid walks into Toys R Us. If you consider yourself someone who really likes to be in that space or wants to continually learn and see what cool things are out there, there is so much content in Zoo and More. Each of these games is fun in its own right, but if you want to see the magic that can be done with a traditional deck of cards, I cannot recommend Zoo and More more. Oh, Zoo and More definitely has the something. Now, number 3, I'm really cheating, guys. Now, this is my highest trick-taking game, or games, on the list. Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game and Two Towers trick-taking game are 2 games, but I'm cheating and putting them together in the same spot, because Two Towers is literally a continuation of the first game, and it just felt natural to flow from one to the other in our personal play of them. So it would almost be impossible to try to separate them on this list. Now, the reason that they actually would hit a trick-taking list different as far as recommendations to folks or what I enjoy playing or trick-taking games I'm going to randomly introduce to people is because this is a different experience, right? This is the co-op trick-taking game experience. Collectively, our most played game of 2025, I can say with confidence for myself that this is The Crew Killer. I'll keep my copy of The Crew if people want to play it or want to try it. It's still an awesome game. But as far as the co-op trick-taking space goes, nothing has topped this for me. We have just had so many good times with this year, so memorable, so many joyous highs when you accomplish a challenging chapter or the determination it takes. I really enjoy the 2-player variant on this one, and I think all in all, it is just a remarkable design through and through. I think the quality of these games bleed through the categories they're a part of, and let me explain. You have Lord of the Rings, you have trick-taking, and you have co-op. If you like even just 2 of these things, you're going to have a tremendous time with these, even if you're not the biggest trick-taking fan. Maybe you are, but you're not the biggest co-op fan, but you love Lord of the Rings. This is going to shine for you. I would take this a step farther. These are so well designed and developed. I think that if you just like trick-taking and you couldn't care less about the other 2, still try them. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, not a fan of the other 2, still try them. A big co-op fan, not sure about trick-taking and Lord of the Rings, still try them. They are just wonderful games, and I cannot wait to continue playing through these. You go. The game that almost stole the whole show. I was pretty confident this was going to be number 1 this year. Just the game that I questioned, is this my new favorite Knizia game? I love this game. It is an experience that is hard to describe. You're going to be playing through a series of events that involve push your luck, auctions, bidding, action selection, and more that I've described in the past is a remarkable exercise in risk management. That's the best way I can describe this game. And I can see this one growing for me. I think this just creates such a magnificent dynamic around the table. You know, I mentioned earlier that a lot of the games on this list can be kind of niche because they're in that weird trick-taking space or card shedding, whatever, or indie scene. But even here, I think Ego was the outlier of the most recent Cosmic Trilogy from Bitewing, and yet it's the one that struck me the most and stuck with me the most. And I think, like some of my other favorite Knizia games, like Zuvadas, it's all about the energy around the table, watching people play out those cards, the interactions of the auctions, the risk events. It is just a sublime, again, experience that you have to live to really fully understand it. My number 1 game of 2025 is Crisps. Crisps is a 2-player shedding ladder climbing game that is quick and punchy, easy to learn and teach, easy to pop out of the box, shuffle up and play, and each little hand of cards will have you wanting one more, hence its namesake. It is clean and simple, and that's the whole point. The hobby, and honestly, this very list is filled with games, card games specifically, that have all those little bells and whistles that are fancy and tantalizing and fascinating. All that help them stand out in a busy market. I can't even imagine now trying to come up with actually solidify a favorite trick-taking or card shedding list. It's crazy because these card games that keep coming out just keep getting so darn clever. But with Crisps, its elegance, for me, comes from its modesty. The flow of play is charming, smooth, and ingenious. And because of that, it will be replayed often. It is just a few cards that you are going to be playing quick hands with, and the interactions, though, are just so enticing. See, most games out there, I can poke at a little. I can find a flaw. I can even just have to be nitpicky, one minor little silly complaint or something like that, and say, I wish they did this differently. I wish this was different. When putting this list together, I was like, wow, Crisps is the only one that I cannot do that to. For what it is a perfect little package. And when you play a game so much and talk about a game so much, and it's just such an enjoyable experience every time, how can that not be your favorite game of the year? And when I was thinking about it, I said, well, it's just because Crisps has that something. Let me explain. This year, I have reflected a lot about what got me into the hobby in the first place. Game nights, and often card nights, with my family. As a very young kid, it started early. Traditional card games every week, with my folks, my grandfather, my aunts and uncles. It was a regular thing to gather around with all those folks and play and learn a ton of games, and I have so many good memories of that. Playing games with those family members who a lot of them are no longer with us. And as a game, Crisps doesn't just bring me back to that time in some nostalgic way, but it's the kind of game that I wish I could have played with some of them. Back then, I didn't realize I was making core memories, playing games with the people that I love that would impact my lifelong hobby and creative endeavors. When Kel and I were first together, and we played tons of Rummy, during times of some difficult health issues. I didn't realize I was making those core memories then either. Playing all of the games I listed that had that something, they made me self-aware for the first time that I was making new memories of the same kind. And knowing you're making those new memories of those good times, that's the something. And I realized that's what I'm looking for in the hobby. Is this a fancy way of saying nostalgia? Maybe. But it's not the same thing as just enjoying a categorically bad movie just because you liked it when you were a kid. It's not the same thing. It's so much more than that. It's realizing in the moment that you're getting to create new experiences that mirror and match the experiences that made you fall in love with something in the first place. But at the end of the day, if that's what makes you enjoy a game, what does it matter? I find these best of lists to be very personal. You never know why a game's going to click with you. Sometimes it just does. And whether a game brings you back to simpler times, good old times, or only reminds you of those things because of the new good times you're forming, well, to me, that's the best part about playing games like this with the people you care about. I'm not here to tell you why a game may be objectively the best game of the year, but I'm here to tell you why these games made a difference to me, and maybe they could for you too. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and don't forget to always play board games like an animal.